Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
Oh, very good evening to you, and welcome to the Locker Room for our Friday night. It feels as though we've been together all week, Reagan, talking about football. We were here on Wednesday, and we were here last night as well for the Rangers game. We're back to talk about the full Premiership weekend, and we have joined tonight by Reagan. And Des Roates will be joining us very soon. And I'm delighted to say that we're joined by journalist of the Glasgow World, Ben Banks. Hi, Ben. Thanks for joining us.
No bother at all. It's been a busy week, so plenty to get through, I would imagine.
Yeah, no, busy week. And don't forget, get your comments coming in. We're live on Facebook and we're live on X as well. And Twitter. I don't know. I don't really know about that website. I need to get down with the kids on that one, Ben. I'm a bit kind of old fashioned when it comes to a new kind of like platform like that, but hopefully I'll get there as well. So get your comments coming in, and we will be live till 7:00 tonight. Okay, so basically we are going to talk about the game this weekend, and we're going to look back on Rangers last night's European performance as well, and preview the weekend action. And also we'll be looking ahead to the Rugby Six Nations coming up about 6:30 tonight as well. Ben, I just wanted to speak to you. The reason why we've got you here, well, not the only reason why it's brilliant for you to come on the show, but they must have known that you were coming on this week because there was a big story developing in Motherwell, and it's involving Stuart Kettlewell, and he basically resigned from the job as Motherwell manager. Can you tell us a bit more what happened there?
Probably not a whole lot more than what's in the statement. As far as I'm aware, he came into Brian Caldwell, Motherwell Chief Executive's office, about lunchtime on Monday and said how he was feeling. Obviously, that conversation remains private between the pair of them, and said how he was feeling. And ultimately, the end of that was that they were drafting a statement that by 5:00 the Scottish football world was reading that he'd walked away from it, obviously citing abuse that had become a bit too much for his family. I think it's an important distinction to make, that because it is something that's maybe been a bit misconstrued, is that his family wasn't getting abuse. It was abuse that was proving too much for his family. So two different things here in terms of how that's been construed, not by the club, but just in the general Scottish football sphere. But a shock exit, really. Mull 1-1 in 9 ahead of the game this weekend against Celtic. Not a great run, but not a run out with other teams in the division have had this season. We did our sort of podcast at the Mull Times and sort of went through runs teams have been on this season, and most teams have been on a run of 1-10, 2-12, they type of runs. This is Mull's time in the season to have it. They still sit 5th in the league. They're as close to 3rd as they are to 11th, so it just shows how bunched up the league is at the minute. But it's a shame to see Stuart go in the circumstances he has. It's all got a bit toxic, if I'm being honest. It became a bit of a mudslinging match between sort of people. There's no balance in the conversation. It's either this person's right or this person's wrong, and there's no in between. But you're just hoping now, from a Mull point of view, that there's trying to get a bit of unity and trying to, I suppose, unite the fan base again, because it has felt a wee bit disconnected this week. There's been a lot of different opinions about it, different opinions on the manager who's gone, the style of play, and speaking to Stevie Frail and Stephen O'Donnell today at the press conference, that was certainly their message, was that a bit of unity wouldn't go amiss. They've got a 2-week break after playing Celtic on Sunday, and that's probably for the best as well, so they can get this manager appointment spot on.
Before we talk about the game, good evening to Des as well. Thanks for coming on tonight, Des. before we talk about this game, Ben, it's a very sad indictment on our game at the moment, and it seems to be like creeping in. Obviously we'll speak about Celtic in a minute, because I think Celtic put a statement today to say that their fans might be banned for the away game in the next round of the Champions League. So I think it's no, I think it's a Scottish football thing, but also I think it's a society issue as well.
Yeah, it's been important to stress that it's not like a majority of Motherwell fans were out giving Stuart Kettlewell pelters, and same with Celtic. Obviously, the news coming out there today. It's not all Celtic fans who are lobbing pyros, etc., onto the park. It is a minority of these fans, but the minority sometimes obviously make the most noise in certain occasions. And certainly in the Motherwell one, it is a minority of fans. I feel that that's maybe been a bit of a narrative that's played out, again, not by the club, but just in general. It's been a bit of a thing of, Motherwell went from this really fan-led community club to, big bad Motherwell by the end of this week. And it's not really the case. It's a minority of fans who have got a high opinion of what they think about football, and ultimately whatever they've said has crossed the line. And, what one person's level of abuse maybe is different to another person's, if that makes sense, in the sense of you don't really get to judge what is too much abuse for one person to take it. That might differ for me as it might differ for you guys on this show. So it is a societal thing. I think it's more just a general football thing. I don't think social media helps with it. Social media is a very easy place where 60 seconds after the full-time whistle, even if you've not seen the game, you can go and vent your opinions about X, Y, and Z. Players, coaches, referees as well get it in the neck pretty quickly, regardless of circumstances of that. So it's definitely a societal thing, and probably something that needs looked at maybe more broadly in football, rather than this is just isolated to Motherwell. It's a bit of a rare occurrence to see a manager sort of resign, and I think Motherwell deserve credit for being so transparent about the reasons. It'd have been a lot easier for them. They would have saved a lot of hassle by just saying Stuart Kettlewell's left the personal reasons, and left it there, and we'd have maybe been talking about what were those reasons. But they've been honest and upfront about it, and it has started an important conversation, I suppose. And where do we draw the line when it comes to criticism and abuse in football?
I suppose I'll bring in Des here, because obviously, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you were referencing at the age of there wasn't any social media in the game, but you were still getting fans shouting at you during the game and all that. I mean, how did you reflect on this week's news? I mean, I think Stuart Kettlewell, first and foremost, because I was at most of the press conferences today as well, and most of the managers were saying that you've got to put your family first and foremost. Brendan Rodgers said football comes second, and first of all, your family basically come first. But Des, what do you think of the situation this week? I think Des has got his microphone off. Reagan, yep.
Sorry, gentlemen. I am an absolute Luddite, as I said to you about the email. I had to actually email myself the link to get up on it. So my apologies to you three guys and to the people who are watching. What I think from it is, I think you've got to give Stuart Kettlewell a massive credit for sticking to his morals and his beliefs, because, as we quite rightly said, family comes first. And if he's got to the point where his children can't go to a game because of the stick that his father's getting, and potentially going to them, and you've got to think these kids are going to go to school, they're going to talk to other people who will be supporters of other teams, etc. They're open to criticism. Now, Michael, as you quite rightly said, social media wasn't really involved as highly when I was refereeing. It is now, because I get lots of it, but it comes to me on social media. My wife has no access to my social media accounts, although she will look at it if she wants. I always say, I have got no issue. You can call me, well, they'll never call me the best, so let's all that, right? They'll call me the worst, they'll call me whatever they want, whether it's within a refereeing capacity or a coaching capacity. That's absolutely fine. I've got no issue with that whatsoever. I'm big enough and ugly enough and old enough to put up with that. I've got 2 young boys. I've got a boy who's about to turn 16, who's very, very aware of the profile, not even a profile, of what I do now when I comment on things, and it's picked up by other forms of media. It's on social media, and Des Roach this is Des Roach that. My youngest son, who's involved in international sport, has no idea what I do, and I love that. But if at any point they state about any of my children or any of my wife, that's when it's too far, and that's where I completely agree with Stuart Kettlewell. And also, if you think about it, Stuart Kettlewell has resigned his position. If he was sacked, he would have some form of compensation. He would have some form of mediocrity to meet somewhere and negotiate. He's walked away from paid employment, so that shows you how hard he feels about it and how strongly he feels about it. But yeah, I agree. When it gets too much, if it was from within the club or but more so it's your own support. These guys are there to support the team. And if the team don't do well, it falls back on you. Everybody knows that. But for a manager of his experience and his dedication to walk away from a game, it's quite a poor indictment. And as I said, it's not a Motherwell thing. It's a minority of Motherwell people who are doing that. Motherwell are a small community club who are sitting 5th in the league, semi-final cup place, within challenging position of Europe. Where do they want to be? How much higher can they go? You can look at the might of they're playing Celtic, they've got Rangers, they've got Aberdeen, they've got Hearts, they've got Hibs. They're nowhere near those kind of budgets. So I think Motherwell are fighting really, really well where they are.
And that was a shame, Reagan, because obviously Stuart Kettlewell was doing a decent job there by the budget that he had, and everybody, Ben would probably know better than us that Stuart Kettlewell was a good talker of the game. I used to like watching his press conferences every week, and he kind of said that they were a community club as well, but it's a sad loss to the game, Reagan, that we've got to come to this moment for a manager to stand up. But I mean, at the same time, you've got to applaud Stuart Kettlewell for saying, like, enough's enough, because like we always speak about mental health as well, and we don't want that to kind of like creep into the game and, affecting managers and players as well. Reagan.
I think Stuart Kettlewell's done the best possible thing for him. I mean, the most important thing for Stuart Kettlewell is his family and the people close to him. Like Des was saying there, he got to a semi-final, and during the semi-final, Motherwell were winning by 1-0 against Rangers. And I think it was 45 minutes to go into the final. So I think Stuart Kettlewell's done a very good job. And I said it this time last season when Motherwell were winning 17, I think it was, when Stuart Kettlewell was going to Celtic Park, and then they got a last minute draw. I think overall, Motherwell. I think it'll be interesting now to see who they potentially appoint. I'd like to get Ben's thought because obviously he's close to it, but it'll be interesting to see who they look to.
Well, from what I gather, Graham Arnold is one that I don't know if the club that are interested in him, but I know certainly that he's interested in the job. Not been in club management for some time, was obviously most recently Australia manager, so that's one name that's sort of started doing the rounds as per our reporting. There's been other names mentioned in other media. Ryan Lowe was mentioned one today. Billy Davies, for the 7th or 8th time since he's been out of work, has been mentioned with the Motherwell job, and all the usual faces kind of get brought up. Davy Martindale, I think, got asked about it and ruled himself out of it as well. So it's a bit of a guessing game at the minute, because all clubs will have contingency plans for their managers going now. But I think, if anything, Mullall will have had a contingency plan over Stuart Kettlewell on the basis of another club poach him, not that the fact that he would probably resign of his own accord with the team still doing as well in the league. And I think when it comes to the next Mullall manager, it'll be interesting to see in terms of how much time he's given, because a kind of precedent's been set now, because we had it with Graham Alexander where Mullall finished 5th in the league, but fans were not having the style of play at all, and they finished 5th and got beaten off Sligo Rovers in the European qualifiers in pretty embarrassing fashion, it must be said, and he was out the door before the Premiership season had even started. Stuart Kettlewell again this season, fans aren't having the style of play, despite the fact it's, before the St Johnstone game last weekend, it had the club 9 points better off than they were at that stage last season. They'd been to Hampden for the first time since the Stephen Robinson era. It amassed millions in player sales when you look at Kevin Van Veen, Theo Bayer, the development of Ewan Wilson, who was playing for Beath Juniors at the back end of May, to now being a Premiership regular, all these type of things. So you kind of need it to be a guy who's going to bring through youth players into the first team. And I've mentioned those players without mentioning the development of Lennon Miller, who will go on to break the club's record transfer fee at some stage. So you're talking, you need to bring through young players. You need to buy into the player trading model, which is basically bring in players for nothing and then try and sell them on for 6 figures. You then need to buy this sort of vocal minority. You also need to be in the top 6 and be playing attractive football with what the CEO, Brian Caldwell, has described as a budget that is in the bottom 6. I mean, that's a pretty tall order. I mean, if those are the kind of demands, not taking out the league position type thing of it, which is probably a bit subjective, those other 3 demands, it's a attractive job and an exciting job for someone, but it's a tough job as well. Like Mullall are one of, I think, Aberdeen and Celtic have got the longest sustained run in the Premiership. And that's quite a feat when you consider the amount of change there's been in the Premiership over the last decade. Hearts, Hibs, Rangers, Dundee United, Dundee, Kilmarnock, all these sort of provincial big clubs in Scottish football, Falkirk even, all coming out of the league and dropping down divisions. So it's getting harder to sustain that at Mullall, but Mullall fans that have got used to finishing in top 6 and challenging up the right end of the league, which is a credit to what the club have done in sort of the modern time, but it's certainly raised a standard, and with other teams around the league beginning to spend a wee bit more, and with Mullall's budget having to sort of stay the same, it certainly makes it a challenging job, but as I said, an exciting one nonetheless. I think they've had over 100 applicants from across the world, so it's quite clear to see that it's like all these jobs in the top flight, that it's certainly going to be a job in demand.
I would like to think that the Motherwell fans, being how they are, and as you've quite rightly said there, that the money that's been brought in and what the turnover has to be and where they want to be to, I think it might have to be a wee bit of short-term pain for a long-term game. At this moment in time, you've got to have style over substance. Substance over style. You've got to have that substance to build a nucleus of a team, and then what you do is you have your Lennon Millers, you have your other young guys coming around about it, but you've got your core experience, and that's how you build successful teams. You add in, and you add in, and you add in. You can't automatically expect, if you've got one of the bottom 6 budgets, that you can automatically go and demand we're going to finish 4th and 5th, and we're going to play this free-flowing football, we're going to score goals, we're going to move forward. It has to be, let's solidify, let's give this manager time to develop the team that he has, add in 1 or 2. Motherwell will always be looking for, let's look at it, Motherwell will always be looking for the free agent or the young player and somebody to come in to back that up. And I think that's when Motherwell should be looking at. They've got a really, really solid ground. They've got a really solid base. They're not in any danger of going to be going out of the league, but they just have to find their own identity. And for me personally, watching the club and the way they are, I think they've just got to make sure that they get the substance right, stay where they are, and then add in the other parts of the ingredients. And I can see Motherwell coming back up, but you can't automatically, with the budget they have, expect to go and be challenging in the top 4.
I mean, I think Des makes a great point there, because if you look at Stephen Robinson. I wouldn't say Stephen Robinson plays the most attractive style of football, but I mean he managed to get Motherwell into third place, into European football, into finals against Brendan Rodgers Celtic. I remember that famous trip, Ben, when Louis Moult scored in the semi-final against Rangers.
I mean, I think Mallow fans might be pulling on Dundee United talks with the sight of Alan Campbell and Louis Moult playing passes together by the end of this, with all the uncertainty around for partner now. But no, I agree. It comes down to that, as you say, substance over style. What do you want? And Mull have had substance under Stuart Kettlewell. I mean, his style of play has got results, and a massive factor in, because let's not try and kid on that form now is great. It's not. It's 1 win in 9. You've lost to St Johnstone, who are bottom of the league and look destined for the championship at the minute, back-to-back weekends. But the injuries are a massive factor, and nobody can say otherwise. They've lost Aston Oxborough, their number. I mean, just this month they lost Aston Oxborough, their number 1, to a dislocated thumb, and then they brought in Archie Mayer for Norwich, who has now had surgery after doing the same type of injury movement as Aston Oxborough has, and he's now had surgery on his hand. So you're now on to I think by the time we get to the end of this month, Mull will have had 6 goalkeepers either in their starting 11 or the bench. And that's not including, you've got Paul McGinn, your captain, who's been out injured for most of the season. Stephen O'Donnell's missed huge chunks of the season. You've got Steve Seddon, who I think was probably brought in at the start of the season as your main left back, albeit not really had that run because of the sustained form of Ewan Wilson. He's out for 2 months. Lennon Miller's been out for 6 weeks. Harry Payton's missed about 4 months. Sam Nicholson missed the first half of the season, alongside Callum Slattery. Apostolos Stamatolopoulos, who's your main striker, has missed most of this, or sort of large chunks of the season with various injuries. And that's not even a definitive list. That's not even including the likes of Ross Callaghan and the guys who have had niggly injuries. I think at the last count, Mull had 10 senior players injured.
And that for me is exactly why fans shouldn't be on Kettlewell's back, because when you see how valuable these players are and what they're missing, you take those amount of players out of any of the top 4 teams, every team would be struggling. So I think it's very unfair that the fans have got them when they can see exactly what's happening. As you just said there, 2 goalkeepers as their first choice, breaking their thumbs, which is an inherent risk of being a goalkeeper, let's be honest. Stephen O'Donnell, Scotland international, a top goal scorer, missing time on it. Lennon Miller, the most creative and influential player, missing time. 10 first-team players. You can't take 10 first-team players of any team, anywhere, and not expect to face difficulties. And the fact that Stuart Kettlewell still has them in 5th, I think he's done remarkable. I don't think it'll be very long before he's picked back up somewhere.
Before we move on to talk about the game, I just wanted to get this point in, and I'm kind of aiming that at you, Des, because obviously, we are kind of journalists.
You don't need to aim anything at me, Michael.
I
got enough shots and arrows thrown at me.
Well, maybe that was a wrong word to use. Maybe put it this way, I wouldn't waste a pie on you. But no, I
got a couple of them as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch upon this before we actually go on to the game, because believe it or not, there's a game on Sunday, Motherwell against Celtic. But Graham makes a point here that, like we all go to football games and all that over the years, and we shout at players and swear, and I'm not going down and swearing and whatever, but there's a fine line that you can cross. I mean, Des, I'll tell you after the show if you want, but there was an ex-Grade 1 ref, Steg Kwiastig, and he got his windows put in years ago because of a certain Old Firm game that he was on as well. So that's what Graham was talking about. There's a fine line. But after the 90 minutes, you should just go away and, because football's only football in a way. I know that we're all passionate about the game and we're all watching the game and all that, but there's more important things in life, Des.
100%. So we are the area that I live in Bedfordshire, and where I live there's quite a few football players who live around here. I used to finish my game on a Saturday and I would come home, before I came home, there's a cafe down bottom end of the street, and I would go in and I would just sit for half an hour on my own, and I would just decompress before it went back up. And I would used to meet a couple of managers and players, etc., and they would be like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Oh, I just need half an hour," and they said the exact same thing. There are more important things. That there's no way I want to go home after a game Saturday night, being in an angry mood and coming in and throwing the bag in the cupboard, and then I'm in a mood all weekend. I don't need somebody to tell me you've had a good game. Player doesn't need somebody to tell them it's a good game. You know exactly what you've done. Thankfully, it's never came back to be 11 people like that. You meet these guys after it, you're out walking the dog, and the next day you're laughing, joking, going, "I can't believe you've done this." And I said, "Well, you done that," and the two of us end up laughing, and we have a laugh and a joke about it. Players and the people involved in the game, because we have dialogue during the game constantly. We have dialogue. It's the people out with the game who don't understand that, and when it crosses that line of people at school are saying something to your kids, or goodness heavens, somebody goes and takes damage against your house, which is a threat. It's an absolute threat, and it causes a scare to your wife and your kids and your family. That's taking it too far. I think any reasonable football fan, which we all are, we can understand it. See, after 90 minutes, that's it. It's done. Call it half an hour afterwards. I'm driving home and I've got the radio on and I'm listening to games coming in. But all football fans, we understand it. It is tribalistic. But guys, put a lid in it. I go and watch my son playing football, and I think I'm one of the only parents who says nothing at all. And you hear parents shouting and they're encouraging their team, and you hear them shouting at referees, and I'm like, guys, they're 15-year-old, 16-year-old. Who cares? See if they win 3-0, 4-0, brilliant. See if they beat 3-0, 4-0. Who cares? See if he's playing next year and he's playing the year after. That's it. Keep people in the game. And I've done it as a coach as well in junior football. Football is, I know, who was it? Liverpool manager Shankly said football's more important than life and death. No, it's not. Let's be honest. It's 90 minutes. We don't rely on it for our living. We don't rely on it for our family. I go and done it. I went and done it because I enjoyed it. Every referee's a field footballer because we just weren't good enough to be playing in the same position as the players. So I was always happy I could decompart myself for that 30 minutes after the game, juice, have a read a paper, stay at the road. But it turned out that we knew a couple of people, and we used to have a laugh, and we would meet up, and we're all still friends now. It's not that important. It's a game of football.
Let's move on to that game of football then, because obviously that's another show in itself when you're talking about fans and and it's happening to all clubs, and managers has got to walk away for their livelihood. And yeah, I think Des is right. Stuart Kent will be back in the game soon. I think he was building something pagging the punt at Motherwell as well. But let's go on to talk about that game then. There's the fixtures up for the weekend then. Sunday, Motherwell against Celtic, and Rangers is at home to Ross County. Tomorrow night, actually, a game in Camarca against Dundee United. That'll be on Premier Sports, that game. Dundee against Hearts, Hibs against Aberdeen, St Mirren against St Johnstone, the battle of the Saints and Paisley. Championship, there's a game tonight. Falkirk against Livingston, Airdrie against Queen's Park, Glenfermon against Red Rovers, and Hamilton, Ayr and Packet Thistle against Morton. So these are the games at the weekend. Reagan, it was disappointing for Celtic this week, but at the same time they qualify, so you must be happy with that as well. We'll move on to talk about the Champions League lot in a minute, but so what are you expecting from Celtic on Sunday?
I think Celtic will just be looking to get back to winning ways again. I think Motherwell will be very difficult because they proved that against Aberdeen and Rangers a few weeks ago. They probably should have won that Rangers game. But yeah, I mean, I think Motherwell will be very difficult. Obviously, they've got a lot of injuries, but I think Motherwell's always a difficult place to go. But yeah, I think Celtic will still feel as if they're done very well against that Villa the other night. 2 great goals from a very good striker, and I feel like Celtic really showed themselves well in that game. So I think Celtic will be going in there full of confidence. It's just about Motherwell able to stay in the game for as long as they can, and hopefully somebody can pop up with and try and score a goal. But I think I think Celtic will be looking to also add a few players by this time on Monday, Michael. Possibly a striker and possibly Tierney if we can get him. I know Arsenal are saying it's blocked at the moment, but I still think there's a long way to go in this one because I don't think Celtic let go of Valle and then they've not got somebody in to replace. So it'll be interesting the next few days.
And Ben, from a Motherwell point of view, it's important to maybe get back to winning ways after 2 disappointing performances up at McDermott Park and one in the league and one in the cup. But also Motherwell, I wouldn't say that well, maybe the team owes a performance to Stuart Ketwell. I know it's they saying that he's lost his job as well, but the fans kind of like own one as well. I know I've saw the banner outside Fir Park as well today. So what kind of performance do you think Motherwell will have on Sunday?
I think winning ways is probably an optimistic way of looking at it. I think for Motherwell, this game it's obviously every game's important and all that, but I must admit, I think this is down the list of priorities for Motherwell at the minute. They've got a 2-week break after this. They've got a team low in confidence and a team short with injuries. I think you forget with the poor run Motherwell have been on. All of it, this run of games started, I think, on the 20th of December, which might seem a long time away now, but when you think of they've played those 9 games in that space of time, and that's included Celtic, Rangers, away to both sides of Edinburgh, playing Kilmarnock midweek when it was -4, when the plastic pitch there was resembling pretty much concrete. All these different factors, it's been a really tough run of games for them. The St Johnstone ones are disappointing, but I think the consequences of this run of games physically and mentally draining a team that was already sort of running on fumes a wee bit. So I think for Motherwell, they would obviously love to take 3 points from it. Can't see it. I think realistically, you just don't want confidence taking an extra tank, and you want to try and put in a decent performance, show that there's still a level of confidence there. Because the big game for Motherwell on the horizon is the 15th or the 14th to 15th of February at home to Ross County. That'll likely be the new manager's first game. I think Motherwell are looking to do an appointment sooner rather than later. And you would imagine in this 2-week break, it gives them time to go and try and get that appointment correct. And that's a game where you would say is a bit more winnable, I suppose, for Motherwell. But in terms of this game, I mean, it's not exactly ideal, is it? Like the managers walked away, the dressing room are gutted by it, and then Celtic bring on a returning hero that they sold for £25 million 18 months ago. I mean, you can imagine if you're the fullbacks of that, you're just rolling your eyes a wee bit at the sight of Jota probably coming on the park like this. If Nicholas Coonan dies in Maida, weren't enough to have Jota after 60 minutes. So it just showed that. I mean, that in itself just shows that the level you're up against. So I think for Motherwell, I think if you asked a Motherwell fan, would you like to lose this in a spirited 3-0 fashion? I think most Motherwell fans would probably go, aye, no bother. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
The Celtic, the draw was made today. It is the worst kept secret ever because there were rumours going about after the game that who will Celtic face, but they still had to make a big deal of it and still had to do a fancy bow tie and let's do all the balls in the hat and say who will get in. The ball comes out and you're very surprised because you were there. I didn't know Celtic's got Bayern Munich as well. There were rumours after the game on Wednesday night. But anyway, so the draw was made today. Celtic will play Bayern Munich. What do you make of that one, Des?
I just think that while Celtic will make the most of it, that we're going to be competitive and we're going to go in there to win it, I think Celtic should be saying, right, just deposit the check. I think Bayern Munich are one of the European powerhouses. If Celtic can overcome Bayern Munich over 2 legs, it'd be absolutely incredible. And I really certainly hope they do. I actually think the first leg at Celtic Park is actually an advantage to them. It's an advantage because you're 0-0 at the start. If you go away to Munich, you're not. Excuse me, guys. If you go away, there's a good chance Bayern Munich may take the lead, and therefore Celtic will be nervous at home in the second leg. So I think Celtic being at home in the first leg is probably their best chance of getting a result, and then you try and force it onto Bayern. If Celtic can get a 1-0 victory at home or it tight 0-0, I think they'd be delighted with that, because you then force Bayern at home to come out, and Celtic having that sort of pace going forward. Maeda will miss the first game. She'll be back for the second game. So that'll have him served his 2-game ban. Maeda showed at the weekend, midweek there, how well he done. Which, let's be fair, that was probably the best performance he's put in a Celtic shirt. Do I expect Celtic to win? No. Do I want Celtic to win? Yeah, of course. I want every Scottish team to win in Europe. But it'll be interesting, and I'm sure we'll all be watching it with a keen eye.
Regan, we done the show on Wednesday night after the game. Obviously, after you come out behind the couch after the first 20 minutes, Celtic grew into the game, but obviously asking for the win the game 4-2. And then they had that big draw today against Bayern Munich. The worst kept secret ever, I would say. And also Ben alluded to Jota coming back as well. Brendan Rodgers said Kieran Tierney will be in at Celtic in the summer. I don't think that deal will go through before Monday. So there's a lot to look forward to from a Celtic fans' point of view, Regan. But you would say every manager says one game at a time, and the next game is Motherwell on Sunday.
I think there will be. I think, like Ben said, I don't think Jota will play 90 minutes. I think he'll be brought on in the second half. But I think Celtic will just be going in there, trying to get the 3 points, and then moving on to midweek. They obviously played Dundee at Celtic Park for that rearranged match for the Storm last week. So I think Celtic will just be going into Motherwell, hoping that they can bring in a striker and a left back in on Tuesday before that deadline on Monday night. So I think everything is positive at Celtic at the moment, Michael. I think Des makes a good point as well, though, saying that it's positive that the first legs are home, and I tend to agree with him, because I think if you look back at Celtic a few years ago under Brendan Rodgers, and McGregor scored a great goal, and Celtic lost 2-1 at home. But if you look at the away leg, I think Celtic lost for 5-1. I think it was. Celtic lost away from home. So I think it's very important that Celtic stay in the tie in the first leg. And I was looking through some fixtures today. If you look at Bayern Munich in the Champions League this season, they've played Feyenoord, who Celtic beat last season, and Feyenoord beat them by 3 goals to 0. So I think that can also say to Celtic, look, if Feyenoord can do it this season when Bayern Munich were at full strength, then I think Celtic have got a slight chance.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree, but we're now into the meat and bones of it. And Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, these guys now know what's at stake. They just, as long as they can qualify through the group stages, and obviously we didn't have the group stages this year, I think you'll see a different animal of Bayern Munich now. But as we correctly said, Regan, if they can keep this game alive in the first game and have something to play for and something to put Bayern Munich under pressure in the second leg, I think that's the best that Celtic can hope for. And let's hope they can capitalise on it when they go away. But very difficult task.
Ben, I just wanted to ask you about Stewie Friel today. He get put up he get put up as did Stephen O'Connell for the press conference I watched. And he did, some of the quotes that he said was, "It's been a tough week, but we're looking to get back on with it. We've got a difficult game on Sunday." And I thought Stevie Filet actually did well at the media conference because, as you know, there was only maybe like 2 questions about the game on Sunday, and all the rest was about Stuart Kettlewell. So fair play to Stevie Filet, he did well.
Big bad folk like me going and asking questions that weren't to do with the football on Sunday. It was certainly a busier Motherwell press conference, and usually there's only maybe maybe 2 or 3 as it was much busier than that today. But no, I think he did well. I mean, as always with these caretaker situations, it's a bit of a hospital pass. Like, you're not really going to be talking about football, and you really need to be answering questions that are kind of out with your control a wee bit. So no, he did well, and Stevie Frail's a respected figure in the game. He's obviously been in it a long time. He's been in caretaker. I think it was at Hearts. He was in a caretaker type role for a short while, albeit that's a wee while ago now. So no, he did really well. And again, there's nothing really for him to lose, I suppose, on Sunday. He's not going to be judged or anything off the back of what happens, because Celtic are just a different beast at the minute to anything we've certainly my time covering Scottish football that we've seen. Like The Apprentice started back last night. I think if they're going to replace Alan Sugar anytime soon, then we replace him with Peter Lawwell, because managing to bring back 2 guys essentially in Tierney and Jota who were sold for a collective 50 million, and then getting them back for probably under 10 while they're still in the prime of their careers is just sensational. Like, nobody is, not Rangers, not anybody in Scotland is going to come near that business. And even when the guys they're linked with, sort of at the minute, like you look at Boston Lawwell, who left in the summer, he left for the best part of 4 and 5 million. He's not really kicked a ball at first team level. So they're an absolute machine at the minute, a money-making, trophy-winning, goal-scoring machine domestically, and now they've added the European side to it. So I can imagine Motherwell seeing that fixture on the horizon. You're just like, it's not the fixture you'd pick, put it that way. But I mean, I suppose there's another way of looking at it, in that maybe it is the fixture you want, in that not a lot of people are expecting you to get a result anyway, as opposed to if they were playing, say, Ross County at home this weekend, St Johnstone away, where there maybe is that wee bit more impetus in you to go and get a result against a team that's maybe in and around your level. If you then don't pick up points in that, it's then maybe a wee bit more of an issue. This weekend, the players and management won't look at it as a free hit, but the wider context and the cliche that gets bandied about when provincial teams play Celtic and Rangers is that it is a free hit. So there's 2 ways of looking at it.
Okay, so that's the Motherwell Celtic game on Sunday, 3:00 kickoff. It's a bit weird because it's on the TV. I wasn't expecting a 3:00 kickoff, but there you go. Let's move down the M8 now. And indeed, Regan, my geography is getting a wee bit better. Let's go down to Ibrox then. Rangers against Ross County, and I think days after last night's the Rangers were outstanding. They were good in parts of the game, but we said in the show last night that last night's game was a kind of quite an open game. But on Sunday, when Ross County comes to Ibrox, you're going to see a different game.
Yeah, it'll be an entirely different game. I seen probably the last 10 minutes of the first half, and I watched the second half, and obviously seen the highlights. I thought Rangers looked pretty decent last night, got to say. I know people say there's not really any pressure on them, but we're still trying to make sure they were qualifying. And I know results went for them to get there. But Rangers still had to do the business first. If they didn't, then they weren't going to. I think Dessers looks a different animal again. He looks as if he's got confidence. The last few weeks, he's really, really been looking up for it. Ross County, Don Cowie's got them playing really well. Stuffy at home. But I think that Clermont has turned, I wouldn't say he's turned a full 360. I'd say he's made a good turn in it. He's starting to get a bit more settled team. Bigamani's playing well. Raskin is a different player from he was at the start of the season. They've got Yefty attacking. Bajrami still to really fulfil what we've seen. I'm quite confident Rangers should take care of this game.
Ben, obviously you'll be at Fir Park on Sunday covering the game, but what's your thoughts on the game on Sunday against Rangers Ross County?
I mean, Don Cowie went from, Ross County couldn't win an away game for over a year to now they just can't stop winning away games. So, I mean, that is an added wrinkle, but that's a different challenge for them entirely going to Rangers. Who at Ibrox, I don't think Ibrox has been the issue for them. I think it was said last night, I think they're one defeat in 12, or certainly unbeaten in 12 or so since at Ibrox in all competitions. And when you consider that Europa League run, you consider the teams they faced, Olympiacos away, Nice away, Old Trafford, playing Tottenham, Union Saint-Gilloise, who have been although maybe not one of the more well-known teams, have been a developing force in the sort of Europa League, Europa Conference League type phases. So to manage to get into the top 8 is a real achievement, and it's this total conundrum with Rangers. Like, how do they keep managing to get results in Europe consistently now? Like, consistently managing to produce results in Europe, but then they go, like, for example, they go to Fir Park in December and they are a wrongly cut off Tony Watt goal away from an apocalypse and being down 3-1 and the sky is falling type stuff. It's maybe a bit more of a general debate on Rangers hiring managers, but I've always felt that Philippe Clement and Giovanni Van Bronckhorst as well were good European-style managers, in that their teams are set up in a way that, they're almost set up to be the counter-attacking team. So that works well in Europe because, they aren't going to dictate as much of the game as they would domestically. And that style, for whatever reason, just doesn't seem to translate as well domestically. And certainly away from home this season domestically, that's where the main issues have been. They've simply not picked up enough points at all on the road. A win at Dundee United last weekend was a good sort of first step towards remedying that, albeit I think the damage is probably done in terms of the title. And we're probably already talking about, Celtic lifting that by the end of May. But, considering where he was and, all people were talking about, maybe start of December time was, he's on a ticking time bomb type thing. I don't think we're at that stage yet. I think more importantly for Rangers under Nils Koppen, they look like they've got an actual settled transfer strategy in place, which is so key. They've got actual assets in Hamza Igaman and Yefte and Nico Raskin that they can sell for a profit, and then the challenge at that point comes, can you go and get the next ones? But that's where they need to work towards, because ultimately if you look across the city, that's how Celtic have sort of built this empire, and kind of it feels a wee bit of a lead in terms of finances and on the park that's going to be hard to catch up on. But I think Rangers, certainly in this window, even though they've not maybe done a lot, I think they've shown through the form of those two players, getting guys like Rabbi Matondo, Kieran Dowell off the books, that they're kind of moving into a new era where they're looking to be maybe, they're working a bit smarter as opposed to working harder, which I think is a big thing.
I would say
Reagan,
sorry, Michael. I would say that the biggest bit of Rangers need to do, and this guy won't cost you a transfer fee, biggest bit of this Rangers need to do is get Yanis Hadji onto a new contract. He's already in the building. He said the most telling improvement in that team since he came back, they have to get him in, because bear in mind this guy can leave for free and it won't cost you a penny, and you have to make sure you get it right. Any Rangers fan that I speak to saying he's been the most telling player that's made an improvement in that team alongside Igmani. So for me, I think when you see him outside the first team, they're not the same team.
I think that's a good point you make there. In terms of, you look at the business they did in the summer of like Todd Cantwell, John Lundstrom, Ben Davies, they got them for I think it was 900 grand for all 5 of them or something like that. So if Rangers are going to sell players like you said, they need to make a profit. But yeah, I think it was a bit of a weird one to start off the season that obviously a few of the players that are now in the first team are playing with the B team. So I'm glad they've sorted that situation out, and obviously, I think the manager's actually done quite well the last few weeks. I thought Raskin took his goal very well last night. It was quite weird in the first half to see Tavernier playing centre back, but I thought overall Rangers were played pretty well.
I thought as well, guys, I made this point on the show last night when I was on with Reagan and Andy after the Rangers game. And I think Ben made the point earlier on about for Philip, come on. I know like the knives were out for him a few months ago, but see, when you think about it, I think he deserves massive praise because obviously he was coming out doing press conferences every week with Rangers. They didn't have anyone basically in the boardroom, and they had to answer very, very difficult questions. And obviously, that's not Clamont's fault. That's the club's fault for not, getting somebody in place. But I feel though that for Clamont had a bit of a, as Andy said last night, a raw deal when they signed for Rangers because he didn't really know what he was coming into. But in terms of like the football side, I think that Clement has done well so far, albeit obviously it's only going to be a matter of time where Celtic's going to win the league, and we all know that. But to get Rangers to a final, a penalty shoot, maybe two penalties away, in the League Cup final, and then beating Celtic at Ibrox in the New Year as well, Reagan. So I think needs to. I think the fans need to kind of lay off his back a wee bit and kind of like back him.
Aye, because I think even though if you look at some of the matches that they played, look at the game in Edinburgh a few weeks ago, they go 2-0 up, and then they kind of start playing a bit negatively, and then obviously it was a great game, 3-3. But in normal circumstances, Rangers would have won that game. I go back to a match this season when Celtic drew with Aberdeen and Rangers next day go to Rugby Park and get beat 1-0. It's all about Rangers taking their chances when they present themselves and making sure that they play well, because they always manage to play well in Europe, but it's all about making sure that they do it in Scotland as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. So do we kind of make a case for Ross Kent on Sunday, or do we, Reagan loves me to say this on the show. I think they'll come to Ibrox and park 10 buses behind the ball. There you go, Reagan. I've said it on the show. It gets to keep you happy as well. But am I not right in thinking that Ross Kent went to Ibrox a few seasons ago and got a point, and Rangers had to score a goal about 15 minutes to go? Am I right, guys, on that one?
They've certainly held them in Dingwall anyway. Of late, I can't remember what season it was, but it might even have been last season actually. It was last season where they lost up in Dingwall towards the back end of the season where it looked as if for a period Clement was maybe going to sneak a wee title under his CV, and then it just fell to bits essentially. But no, I wouldn't imagine Ross County will go there, and they'll try and cause problems, obviously, but you would imagine the way Rangers are playing now, even if they do make 4 or 5 changes, Cyril Dessers has seemingly hit a purple patch of form, sort of showing that when he can play consistently, how good a striker he can be. And I think that's what's so frustrating with him, is that you see one thing 1 minute and you go, wow, what a player. Then the next thing you're thinking, what are you doing? That type of a player. But I would imagine this will be a comfortable Rangers win. It'd be a major surprise. Even if Ross County got a draw, I think it'd be a major surprise. A defeat for Rangers would be a bigger one. And it's interesting that, I mean, every game for these clubs between 3rd and 11th is so vital, because there's, I think, not to completely keep taking this back to Motherwell, but they're as close to 3rd as they are to 11th. Like, that full section of the league is totally bunched up. The only teams that are really adrift from respective teams are Celtic, Rangers, and then St Johnstone are a wee bit further back at the bottom of the league. So if they do manage to get a point, then it could be really important at the end of the season, because if they get that point that other people don't, you come to the final match day 32-33 before the split, then all of a sudden when you are sitting a point outside the top six, or you're sitting in the end of the season a couple points above 11th, wherever you kind of end up, then you look back on results like this, and the ones you don't expect to get perhaps is perhaps the most important.
Let's move on to the game on Saturday night. I keep saying Saturday night. It's tomorrow night. Between Kilmarnock and Dundee United. Of course, both sides are going through wee purple patches at the moment. So this is going to be a good game, Des, as well. But I'm just quite happy to see football in the telly that's not involving Celtic and Rangers.
Yeah, it's nice to get a wee bit of sort of breadth and depth, isn't it? I think this will be a really good game. Obviously, it's on the artificial surface down at Kilmarnock, which they use very well to their advantage. But Dundee United have shown all year that they're a very resilient team. Jim Goodwin has done terrific, but I think Kilmarnock will take advantage of it. I think Derek McInnes is a wily old fox. I think he's a terrific manager. He's doing brilliant at Kilmarnock. They are very, very lucky to have him, as is he to have them. But I think I can see Kilmarnock getting a win on this. I think they're very unlucky against Hearts last week. He's already said that he's had a call from Willie Collum regarding the first goal last week, that there was a foul and it was offside, that it shouldn't have stood. Can you imagine Kilmarnock coming away from Tynecastle last week and taking a point, and how well they'd be feeling and the positivity going into the game? Yep, I'm going to stick my neck out here. I'm going to go for Kilmarnock.
And I'm going to take this opportunity to ask is obviously we spoke about in the group chat last week, and I don't think you saw the game, but you saw the replay on Sky, because someone sent you and even Jim Goodwin said to get it was never a red card, and the appeal was right. I mean, what did you think of it, Des? It was just utterly. It was one of the reasons why we don't like VR, and why. I'm just lost for words now. But I mean, it was a ridiculous decision, and as Jim Goodwin says, it was only 2 minutes to go in the game.
Well, the first thing, Michael, is you've done well to wait for 58 minutes to fling that one in there. I was expecting that one to come a lot earlier. So, well done, mate. Listen, there's been certain newspapers, etc. I've made my comments very clear. I thought from moment one that it didn't look like a penalty. It didn't look like a red card. If anything, Kevin Holt was the aggressor. He was the one that came in the back of Diamandi. Diamandi's turned round. Yes, it did look as if he swung an arm out across. Nick, from his vantage point, we'll give him that. From his vantage point, he thought what he thought what he seen and reacted to it. But see, at that moment when Don gets you across to say, I think you might want to have another look at it. At that moment in time, if it was me, I would start to have a wee seed of doubt in my head. He's went across. Don's gave him every opportunity. Now, we're not privy to the angles that he was shown, because they did seem to, which is unusual, because they did seem to stay a wee bit far away from him. Sometimes the camera's right behind and you can see what the referee's seen. Now, Nick is very entitled. This is what we have to say. Nick is entitled to stay with his on-field decision, because he's the sole arbiter. He's the one who makes the final decision. It's like I always liken it to an assistant manager saying to the manager, I think you should take off such and such, or I think you should do this. You can give him advice, but you don't need to take it. Nick has doubled down there. he was given the chance to step out of it. It was clearly seen, in my opinion, Diomande was off balance. But the laws of the game state within it. If you try to make contact with an opponent's face off the ball and the contact is negligible, then it's not a red card. Now, that one phrase in the laws of the game negate that from being a red card. So it was never a red card. What was even more unfathomable, and that makes it wrong for Nick. But what was more worrying for me was the SFA apparently put out a text or a communication backing up the referee within the first, I think, 45 minutes, hour of the game, which I have never seen before in my life. Never seen the SFA back up an on-field decision so quickly. And then, pretty quick thereafter, retract it. Now, in my opinion, and again, I made this opinion clear, the SFA have come out and backed up the referee within that first, call it 45 minutes, right? I'm not sure of the entire timeline, but call it within the first 45 minutes. They're backing up the referee. Then Rangers cannot win an appeal because they've already been judge and jury. And the key match incidents panel are independent, but the SFA are overruling it straight away. That's why they then had to retract it, pull it back. So as soon as that happened, I was entirely confident that wouldn't happen. Now, I don't know if you've actually looked at the wording of the KMI panel. It's not even been downgraded to a yellow. It's just been totally rescinded. So almost again, it's a double whammy. They got it wrong. So as I say, I'm here to back up the referees. Of course I am. I'm here to try and help and support them. But that one was almost laughable.
Okay, let's move on to talk about the game then. Sorry, Des, I just had to ask you.
Listen, ask me an opinion, I'll give you an answer. You don't always have to like it.
Good evening to Graham. Is joining us tonight as well. So he'll join in on the chat as well. Ben, what do you think of this game tomorrow night? Because it's an interesting game, this one.
I hope it's certainly warmer than the last time I was there, and it was about -4, and you could literally hear the ball like pinging off the Astro like it was like an actual road. So hopefully
that game in May.
Aye, that was it. It was nice sunny. I was at Celtic Kilmarnock title party last season. That's what it was. But no, it was. I think it'll be an interesting one. Dundee United. I've had a really good season under Jim Goodwin. I really like their transfer business. Obviously, I mentioned Alan Campbell, Lewis Fiorini. That's a really good midfield duo to be bringing into the club. They've got a nice solid core with the likes of Declan Gallagher and Docherty and players like that. Sam Dalby obviously has been great. But I think they're maybe on a wee sneaky slide, that maybe people aren't quite noticing, like every team has at the minute. But, they'll obviously lost to Derby, they then lost to Rangers. If they then lose here, a tough away game, then all of a sudden you start going, oh, right, hold on a minute here. And you can very quickly find yourself sliding out the top 6, never mind where they are. But that would be a very pessimistic look at it. I think overall they've had a really good season. Jim Goodwin came into the top flight this season with a lot of doubters, a lot of people questioning, even Dundee United fans, I think, questioning whether he was the man to take them forward. The Championship title win wasn't particularly convincing. Obviously, the way it ended for him at Aberdeen posed questions about him, and he's done really well there to build that squad up to a point where now they had the Championship squad, they've now built a Premiership squad, now they're just adding blocks and blocks onto it, where I think they're sneaky building a really good core to a team that could do them a wee while. It'll be interesting to see if they can keep Sam Dalby beyond this season the way he's playing. I doubt it, but then again, I just see Wrexham have spent silly money to bring Jay Rodriguez into League One. So maybe there isn't a future there for Sam Dalby. In terms of Kilmarnock as well, they've had a bit of a tough season. I feel like Europe at the start of the campaign killed them a wee bit. That just wee added run of games affecting their league form, and then they've just never been able to quite get that league form that brought them into where they were last season back. But like all these teams, it's a dog-eat-dog league where a couple of wins and you're all of a sudden you're in the European places and everything's rosy and great, a couple of defeats and then you're at the bottom end of the league and it's, a disaster and you're thinking about going to places like, Dunfermline and such likes away on the road next season. So it'll be interesting. I think it's an interesting game to have on the telly at 5:45. I know Dundee United have had a few of them this season as well. So a game I'm looking forward to. I don't necessarily think it'll be the prettiest game of football you've ever seen. But if you are a lover of good old-fashioned football, I think you'll see a fair few headers, a fair few meaty tackles in this one. And, both teams pack a punch at the other end of the league with or at the opposite end of the pitch. Bobby Wales, a player I really like. I think he's coming into his own at Kilmarnock now. And obviously, as I've mentioned, Sam Dalby at the other end. So it'll be interesting to watch.
Before we bring in Graham here, let's look at the managers. They were talking. Derek McInnes done this press conference on Wednesday. He seems to like Wednesday's gig a first game or Friday. I don't know what it is. He says it's a home game. There's a lot on this game. There's only 9 games to go before the split. So we need to start and get results and we need to get the supporters behind us. Dundee United's did well this season since they've come up and Jim has been doing an excellent job. Meanwhile, Jim Goodwin says we know what to expect from Kamal. It's going to be a tough game, but we want to get back to winning ways. Graham, what do you think of this game tomorrow night?
I thought Kilmarnock were quite poor against Hearts last week, especially first half. I didn't think they were good at all. They kind of improved second half. They've had a strange season, Kilmarnock. They're very up and down. For me, their best player is still Danny Armstrong. I thought he was good when he started the second half last week. He was far better. But they're just a really strange team to watch. And I think last week, there was a little bit of sour grapes effort from Derek McInnes after that Hearts game, after the first goal. And everyone watched that ref watch, which is usually quite interesting and entertaining. I wanted to ask Des about that, but he's gone, typical. But anyway, I thought there was a bit of sour grapes from Derek McInnes last week. Hearts were the better side for most of that game. But yeah, they've just been... Kilmarnock are a strange side, and I think they could be... I don't think they'll be in the relegation playoff, but I think they might finish 10th because they're just very up and down. And United, they'll be coming off the back of that disappointing defeat to Dundee. They'll be looking to make up for that. So it'll be an interesting game. But home advantage might just help Kilmarnock.
Yeah, and obviously Dundee United came off the back of a defeat last week being United. I thought Dundee United played well for long parts of that game.
Yeah, no, they did. I mean, especially in the first half. I mean, there could have been a couple goals up. Potentially things had broke their way, but that's what I'm talking about. When you start to see the signs of a team slipping and sliding a wee bit. Those wee moments don't quite go for you, and all of a sudden you're like, you're not too sure about this. I mean, they're going into this game. I think it's a run of since they won at Dens in the league. I think it's a run of 4 defeats in 5 games, and they've not scored in 3 of those, albeit 2 of those games were against Celtic and Rangers. So Take with that what you will, but that's what I'm saying. I think this game's an important week, an important weekend for Dundee United because then they've got Celtic away, and then all of a sudden, if you drop points or lose here, you've then all of a sudden you've lost like 5 or 6 out of 7, and then it starts to become not too sure about this. So they're in a good place. They're in a good place, and they could be doing well win this week off the back of results recently. And with the sort of result to come, or the game against Celtic to come, which you wouldn't expect they're going to get 3 points because after that it's not exactly going to be plain sailing either. They've then got a home game against Motherwell, who will be under new management, you'd imagine by that point. A few days later they play Hibs, who are the informed team in the league at the minute, alongside Celtic, and you would imagine Aberdeen aren't going to lose every single game until the end of time. So by the time you get to Pittodrie on the 2nd of March, I mean, they can't be any worse than they are at the minute. So, they need to win at some point. So that'll be a difficult game as well. So an important game, I think, for Dundee United, but similarly for Kilmarnock as well. They're not a team people will panic about purely on the basis that Derek McInnes is their manager. But the longer they sort of circle around the sort of bottom reaches of the league, the sort of more that I think, not externally, but certainly within the Kilmarnock fan base, that the fears will grow that, they've already been in the Championship, they don't want to be back there. They could be doing as a couple of results as well, just to ease any lingering fears or PTSD really from finding themselves in that division not too long ago.
Reagan, what do you think about this game tomorrow night? I mean, Kilmarnock's had a bit of an up and down season as well, but they're a bit like Motherwell. They've got about 5 or 6 players out the team with injury, and I think that still includes Danny Armstrong. That is still out of the team. So, how do you think this game will go tomorrow night?
I think, like Dave was saying earlier, I think Kilmarnock will do pretty well because it's on their plastic pitch. But like you guys were saying there as well, Dundee United have a very good start this season. Jim has started to rebuild both his management career and Dundee United. Because I remember this time last year when they got brought up from the Championship, there was a lot of the Dundee United fan the following summer that we weren't sure that Jim Goodwin was the man to go. But yeah, I mean, in terms of him, I think he's doing a very good job. But I think for me, I would go with the home team tomorrow.
Can I just say, I'm still hoping that by the close of play on Monday, that Hearts have signed Danny Armstrong. We need a winger, and that's the type of player that I want to see. So we've got money to do it. I'm hoping that Hearts go and spend some money and go and sign Danny Armstrong. And I've been saying that for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great player, Graham, so I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if Ben knows if he's in some sort of transfer speculation or whatever, but
well, I work with Barry Anderson in sort of the day job, so he's like, if you're not going to Hearts for club news, then you're probably going to Barry for confirmation of stuff. And obviously, working with him, he'd reported a few weeks ago that the club at least had reached out to him over a pre-contract, sort of similar to what the club did last season with Jan Danda, Blair Spittle, and James Penrice. 2 of those deals, I think, particularly, have worked brilliantly. James Penrice has been Hearts' best player this season for me. Blair Spittle did what he's always did at Blair Spittle, where he'll maybe come under the radar a wee bit, but by the end of the season, he's got 10 goals and 10 assists, and you begin to wonder, where did they actually get all them from? And I still think there's a player in Jan Danda. I think it's been difficult for him because of Blair Spittle, because they're almost identical players. They play the exact same way. They want to do the exact same things. But I think Neil Critchley wants to get to a point where he's playing pretty much a 4-4-2, and there just is not a space for both of them in that type of system. So it's been tougher for Jan Danda, but still a really good football player who I think's got potential there. And Hearts have actually, just on Hearts, I think they've did good business this season. I like the look of Elton Kabangu from what I've seen of him. Initially, it looks like he's got that bit more pace and power that will take the weight off James Wilson. You can't expect him at 17 to be carrying the load for Hearts in an attacking sense. So I've liked the look of him. Lawrence Shankland will be back soon from injury. I know he's had a bit of an indifferent season of late, but I think with a couple of options now, able to share the workload really in terms of goals, assists, creating chances, then it'll be a benefit to him. Obviously, still to see what happens with him in his future. But Neil Critchley said today that Hearts could still be active before the deadline on February 3rd, and there could be exits as well. Probably Barry Mackay and Yutaro Oda, not anything I've heard, but probably 2 that fall into the possible exit category just with the lack of game time they're getting at the minute. Callum Neuenhoff will be due back from injury at some point soon. And also if you can keep Benny Beningame fit, who for me, maybe slightly bold shout, but when fit and on form, the best player outside the Rangers and Celtic. Absolute caviar. Just a joy to watch. Some of his touches and movement with the ball is brilliant to watch and see why he played at a level with Everton early in his career. So I think Hearts have been sneaky good under Neil Critchley. I think there's the Jamestown analytics stuff is really interesting. I think it's shown with the players they've brought in. It feels a wee bit Romanov era at times. There's just these random names from all over the globe getting bandied in, albeit they're not being all brought for the same team in Lithuania this time. But, it's this collection of random names. You're going, who is this guy? But then, Elton Kabangu comes on, does fairly well. There's a wee bit more excitement as well. And I know it's not particularly right, but see when you sign like Michael Steinvender and Sander Kartum, you're a bit like, right, okay, he sounds like a player, and there's no basis of it apart from the fact it's a wee bit of a fancier name. But I'm aware I've just went on a total down a rabbit hole here about Hearts, but no, I'm quietly optimistic about Hearts, and again, with how clustered this league is, they have got more of a budget and backing than other teams in this league. And if Jamestown Analytics works like it has done at Union Saint-Gilloise, as it has at Brighton, then you could pretty much see Hearts in a European place by the end of the season, which, considering where they were not too long ago, that would be quite an achievement.
Don't get me excited. I'm already there.
Well done, Ben. You set me up to talk about the Hearts game now. And yeah, so Graham, I think you'll be best placed to talk about Hearts. Tomorrow's game against a kind of informed Dundee side away from home.
So my wife is away this weekend, and I have control of the telly. So I've been watching the music channel, and a song just came on called Joyride. And I can safely say this season has not been a joyride for Hearts. What a segue that is, but like I scripted that. But no, it's been the last few games has been a lot better. We're 6 games unbeaten, but we did get beat at Dens Park early in the season. So I've got that in my head. But it's a really good opportunity for us. If we win and other results go away, we could potentially go 7th, which would be incredible given how bad we've been this season. But we do have players coming back. We've got Gerald Taylor back, Nuenhoff back, the new boys Khartoum and Steinwender as well. But I don't know if they'll play because they've not played since November. So it's highly likely our centre-back pair is going to be McCart and Nielsen, which isn't ideal. Another injury to Kay Calkett. I don't know what that boy's made of, honestly. It's mental. But we do have Lawrence Shanklin back. There was rumours today about Preston Athletic. I don't think there's anything in that from what I've seen. But yeah, I'm more positive than I was probably about a month ago. We're in a far better place now. And I think Critchell's done a really good job. There's still some Hearts fans not convinced. But I can see what he's trying to do. And what I really liked is last week, we beat Kilmarnock 3-2. And other managers might have said, it's a great result, all that kind of stuff. But he actually did say we didn't play well. We need more. And I quite like that. I like that for a manager, the fact that he demands more. So I think there's still more to come. We do want to try and play 4-4-2. But the one thing that we need, and I put this on X earlier, we've got balance on the left-hand side with Penrith and Spittle. We've got nothing on the right. If you play Forrester or Taylor, who's back now, we've got nothing in front of them because Kenny Vargas hasn't done it. Yutaro Oda's not good enough. Kenny Vargas Musa's been okay, but he's not really a right winger, I don't think. So if we do nothing else in this window, come Monday, we have to sign a wide player. Islam Chesnikov's going very quiet, the Kazakhstan boy, but we have to sign a winger. That's the one thing we have to do. We will have players coming back from injury, of course, defensively, but yeah, I'm far more positive now. It'll be a difficult game. Dundee a good side, but I have to go with Hearts to win that game tomorrow. We've got a big opportunity here to climb that league again and get out the position we've been in. So yeah, I'm more positive than I was probably 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Regan, from a Dundee point of view, they've actually dug well in the past couple of weeks. They picked up a point against Celtic, and and they progressed in the Scottish Cup as well. So it's always going to be a difficult game. Tony Dock has got his team set out well at home.
Aye, and the new striker, Adewumi, he's really impressed me. He did well against Celtic and he did well against Rangers, obviously, as well. Like you said, the progression in the Scottish Cup. And the real fancy their chances now come that tournament as well. So I think Dundee has been a very good season, and for Tony Docherty to get Dundee in the top 6 would be a great achievement. But I really like their strike force with Simon Murray, with Tiffany, Adewumi, as I spoke about. So I think Dundee will do okay this season.
Yeah, no, exactly. And Graham, last word to you then. As a Hearts fan, still behind Neil Clitsy. I know you were talking about him there, but as we were talking about with other managers on the show, previous with Ben as well. But do you think the Hearts fans are starting to believe in Clitsy?
I think a lot of them, the kind of fair-minded folk are. You'll get the odd people that aren't, which is fine. I get that. He wasn't my first choice. I will admit that at the start. I did say on the show ages ago that he wasn't my favourite choice for the job. But he's done well. You know, this is not his squad. He's signed 4 players. He's done really well. And I really like the fact that he's giving guys like Wilson a chance. He's giving Forrester a chance. Wilson's been brilliant. 17-year-old laddie. He's got 5 goals this season. And you can see that Ross County a few weeks ago, Liam Boyce played in that game. Again, I was kind of thinking, why is he starting? But he actually did really well. His link up with Wilson was really impressive. He was talking through the game. Wilson's been really good. And you noticed that last week as well against Kilmarnock. His movement, his touch, his awareness of what's around him. I think Wilson's been outstanding so far alongside Kabangu. So, yeah, I think Critchley's done a very good job. There'll be a massive overhaul, I think, in the summer. There'll be a lot of players that need to leave. Trying to get guys like Barry Mackay off the wage bill is not easy because who's going to take it? Let's be honest. I've said it before that Barry Mackay on his day is one of our most creative players, but that day is 1 in 10. It's not enough. He's got ability, just doesn't show it enough. But yeah, I think Critchley has done a really good job. And I'm interested to know as well from Ben. Obviously, we signed Oyegoke in June, and he's already away. I think that's a great deal for Hearts. The guy had a 3-year contract. I think that's a great deal. I don't know how much we actually got. I don't know how much the fee was to get him out the door, but to sign a guy like that and then sell him, this is what Jamestown, I think, is all about. The fact that we can sign these players, sell them for a profit. We'll get money for him. We've got money for Kai Rolls, although I don't think that was enough. But this seems to me to be what Jamestown's about, Ben, and I honestly think this is a really good deal for Hearts.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it shows what that model is because basically what Jamestown will do, is my understanding of it, is it'll identify in terms of players at the club. It'll identify essentially. It won't be quite like this, but simplifying it a wee bit, what the top assets are, and when's the prime time to sort of sell said assets. And as you say, Daniel Oyegoke comes in from Brentford. And you come in and clearly it said this is a good time for him to go. It might not seem that because he's only been there 6 months. I'm not privy to the fee, but you're able to get him in, develop him enough that a Serie A side wants him, he moves on. And I think it shows initially that not only will this new trading model bring players into the club, because I know Daniel Oyegoke came to the Hearts before Jamestown, but it shows that when it comes to actually making profits on players, then they can do that as well. So I think it sets up Hearts well for sort of long-term future. It's not just like this is just like a robot churning out names like FIFA, you know what I mean? You type in a random right-winger name and it comes up, It's actually going to break down the data as of, right, this is who your assets are and this is how much you can expect to get to them if you sell them here. And I think that'll only work well for them in the long run. It's sort of first of its kind stuff in Scotland. Hibs across the city are starting to sort of, they're obviously going through change now, more upstairs on the commercial side of things with Ben Kenzel leaving, but they're tapping into the Black Knight Football Group and what Bill Foley's sort of clutcher clubs are doing from Bournemouth and those types of sides. So it's certainly interesting, and I think we'll probably. I think the days of knowing who Hearts are kind of signing are kind of done, in the sense of these aren't going to be guys in the main you haven't really heard of, albeit you bring in Jamestown Analytics, it's this big fancy shiny transfer machine, and then one of your first signings is Jamie McCart. Was kind of the same way with the manager, like we're going to get this nice fancy name, and then you get the former QPR and Blackpool boss, but I think what it shows is, it shows that they're aligned to what Hearts are looking for. It doesn't necessarily matter where they're from. They're aligned to what Hearts need and what is being inputted into that is shown on the pitch. And, I think it is telling that I think Jamie McCart has started well at Hearts. I think he's proven a reliable figure in a back line that has undergone a serious amount of turbulence. I was at the game when Stephen Kingsley pulled up injured. I think it was a game against Motherwell, or maybe it wasn't, but I can't remember what game it was. But was it Motherwell? It was the game where Stephen Kingsley and Frankie Kent went down within the first half an hour, and you were looking at Adam Forrester, Kai Rolls at left back, Halkett, who hadn't played in the best part of 6 weeks or so, coming on for an hour. It was just this total mishmash of patched up defence, whereas now you can see, even though he's injured again, you can see a structure and there's options, which is a massive thing.
Can I just quickly ask Ben as well on this as well, because I just want to get Ben's opinion on this. I honestly think, and I've said this to mates, he mentioned Benny there, and he's absolutely spot on. I love Benny. But I actually think one of the most underrated and underappreciated players at Hearts is Cammy Devlin. I love that laddie. I think he gives everything. And actually, recently, I think he's been one of our best players. I know he gets booked a lot, which is just Cammy Devlin. But I genuinely think a lot of folk talk about his ability on the ball, which I actually think is better than folk give him credit for. I just want to get your thoughts on Devlin, because I love that laddie.
Yeah, I think for every Benny Beningame needs a Cammy Devlin. He can't do the nice passing and the nice footwork and all that without somebody just running about, essentially not quite kicking folk, but he'll go and do the dirty work and all that. He'll go and put in the extra yards, and he is the type of player that I think fans love the most in Scottish football. He's a proper throwback where you're going to be frustrated with him. I know he's passing, something that Hearts fans sort of bring up as a criticism of his game. Maybe doesn't score too many goals, but the one thing I think, and I know if I take my journalist hat off, the one thing I want as a fan from players that I support is I just want to see 100% effort, and I want to see that they care and they're bothered. And Cammy Devlin certainly epitomises all that, and he's got the quality as well. Like you say, he's a full Australian international. Like he's not just this guy who's pulled up from the lower leagues, who's a Hearts fan and is running around just really happy to play for the club. He's got a bit of quality about him as well. Because I sometimes think that can be the worst type of praise a player can get is like, oh, he's a 7 out of 10 every game and he tries really hard. I mean, like, he is good on it. It's not the strength of his game, but he certainly can handle a ball when he needs to. And he, I've sensed it in games that I've covered at Hearts. I think Aberdeen, the draw with Aberdeen, he was, the mood's a bit subdued and he's flying into tackles and it just gets the place going a wee bit. It gets, people bothered about it and, on their feet, so to speak, in a different kind of way as to maybe a Elton Kabangu would by scoring. People react to players like Cammy Devlin in a really positive fashion. So I think he's a vital player for Hearts. And I think if Lawrence Shankland was to go in the summer, in terms of that captaincy, I would probably put him in that mix for that, certainly in a leadership role, because he epitomises, the enthusiasm and passion. And that can't be the only reason you're in a team. You need to have the quality to back it up as well. But certainly that vocal, and, when he's doing press with us, he talks for ages. Sometimes you need to really drag words at a player. You kind of get him to shut up, which isn't a bad thing. I really like Cammy Devlin, and I think he complement. I can imagine a midfield too, if they're going that way. Benny Beningame, maybe legs wise, it'd be a tall order for him in that. So basically, to have Cammy Devlin who will just run for 90 minutes, that probably I can see how that could work if you can keep Benny Beningame fit.
Okay, let's talk about the Hibs Aberdeen game, and Graham Paul Donaldson's basically left a few comments in here as well. It was you would say it was a honeymoon period when Jimmy Killing went in, but I think it's come into a horror movie now. He says, "I can I see the Dons winning? I'm afraid I don't think we can." So yeah, it's a kind of weird season for Aberdeen, winning. Got off to a good start and then kind of like going downhill very, very quickly.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen as spectacular a fall-off as Aberdeen have. They started the season so well. Everyone was looking at them in a title race. And I think it was that 3-3 draw against Hibs at Easter Road that kind of killed it. And they've never looked the same since. Defensively look really vulnerable. They don't score enough goals. Kevin Nisbet's not really done it for them. And they just look miles off it. And I was looking at this a couple of days ago as well. At Christmas, Aberdeen had 34 points. Hearts had 16. Now, Aberdeen have got 35 points. We've got 27. It would be a major, major collapse if we caught them. But it definitely could happen. But it's been unbelievable. And then last week, they were awful against St Mirren. I mean, Rubizic just was one of these games that nothing was going right and they got taken off. But yeah, I kind of agree with Paul. Hibs have definitely picked up form. This is the last place Aberdeen want to go, I think. I think Hibs will probably win this. But I genuinely don't think anybody can believe just how bad Aberdeen have fallen off.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, who could predict that story? That's one of the stories of the season, Ben, when Aberdeen, what was it, 13 games unbeaten, and then they go to Hampden Park, Celtic beat them, and then after that, they can't buy a win.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the thing to look at is the last time Hibs played Aberdeen at Easter Road, I think that goal Rocky Bashiri scored to level that game is arguably the most consequential goal in Scottish football this season in terms of the Premiership. Because I think at a point, if that had stayed 3-2 to Aberdeen, there was something like, 8 or 9 games ahead of Hibs at that time. And that was at a point where David Gray was on the ropes. And if that stands, then, that Aberdeen run keeps going and they put the Celtic game behind them. And Hibs are left in a bit of a dark place. But what happened is that goal and Hibs players and management have talked about it, that just totally galvanised them. And they've not really looked back since then. And they've pretty much won most weeks or picked up points here and there. And now you would have to say on current form at the minute, it looks like them and Dundee United look like they're going to be competing for third at the minute, which is incredible considering, we were talking in October time about how Aberdeen were going to be title challengers potentially, and there was full-blown coverage of that. And now all of a sudden you're thinking, are they even going to finish in the top 6? And I think Jimmy Tillene has got a level of goodwill from supporters because of the way he started the season, because of the way the last few seasons have gone for Aberdeen since Derek McInnes left the club. They've kind of, it all comes back to this sort of elusive hunt for a style of play where you maybe go searching for something that isn't quite there. They've maybe seen with Jimmy Tillene, you can have a bit of both if he gets the time to get his own players in and get things right. But at the minute, it's very hard to see where they pick up points, to be honest, because they've pretty much been beat off everybody. I mean, the last week was totally alarming. The defeat, the manner of the way they get beat off St Mirren, and I know it maybe wasn't the worst defeat of the run they've been on, but just to give up the goals the way they did, with Rubizic asking to come off the park, and it was. I've never seen it, like a player pretty much just asking to come off and not seeming to be injured or anything like that. So pretty worrying. And issues, I think form would dictate that, with how vulnerable Aberdeen have looked at the back, with how leggy they've looked in midfield. I think Nelson's pretty much played right through a full season in the Nordic region straight into this one. He looks knackered. Graham Shinney looks knackered. You would imagine, going by the form book and the way things have been going, that this will be a comfortable Hibs win, and and Aberdeen's woes will be extended in another week.
Yes, so a quick word on Hibs. Reagan, David Gray was talking today, not like David Gray before you say it, Graham. He said Aberdeen are going through a tough run, but they're still a good team, and it will be a tough test for us at home in front of our own fans. So what do you think of the game, Reagan, at 3 o'clock tomorrow?
I think it'll be a very interesting game, but it just shows you a few weeks ago everybody's talking about Aberdeen going up to Hibs to try and go ahead of Celtic at the table. And then that game virtually turned around the high beast for them. 3-3 in that game, Rocky Bashiri scoring that goal in the last minute. It's basically changed the whole complexion of the season, because straight after that match, I know there was a statement about David Gray about the board supporting them and stuff like that. So it just shows you how quickly things can change in football there. And obviously we've got an Aberdeen fan talking there about that. They've got so many injuries and stuff. So I think David Gray will be very confident that they can go in and try and get a few tomorrow to from their point of view to make Aberdeen lose another game, because as much as we say that one game we have it, so can losing from an Aberdeen point of view, because I think it's just crazy to think that Aberdeen won the first 10 of their 11 matches, and the game that they drew was the winner. Celtic Park and drew 2-2. So I just think it's amazing, like Graham said. But yeah, I think this is a match that David Gray will be thinking, right, if they play the proper way, then they can get all 3 points tomorrow.
Okay, let's move on. We are tight for time tonight, so that's why we didn't spend too much time on that game. Actually, and Glenn will be happy actually that we've not spoken about Hibs for too long. So there you go. So I've done something right. We're going to come back to we're not ignoring you, Alan. We're just I don't know if you can hear us because it's brilliant when you do shows and as well, but when you're not in a studio. But Alan's on I think he's on is he on a train to Falkirk tonight? Yeah. Are you?
Not to Falkirk tonight. Unfortunately, I will be watching the game on the car down. I'm actually away down to Burnley, so not as glamorous as Falkirk.
Right, okay. So, well, have you get time to stick about, or do you want us to jump into the Falkirk game now?
What I'll do is I'll be more than happy to discuss it. If you're jumping it on in a minute, I'm just need to get off this train and I can jump back on. Obviously, the squads haven't been announced yet, so hopefully by then the squads will be out and we can have a proper dig, because there's a few players I'm hoping are fit for tonight and we're just waiting to see.
Cool. Well, if you do that, we'll speak about the St Mirren St Johnstone game and all that. And if you want to jump on in about 2 minutes or something, if that's okay.
It sounds good. That sounds like a terrible game to listen to anyway. So.
Yeah. Right, there you go. Don't you just love live stuff? You don't know what's going to happen. Brilliant. So let's move on to the St Mirren St Johnstone game. I always think this game should be played on a Sunday because anybody get an answer to that? No. Oh, Saints on a Sunday. Anyway, so
terrible.
Yeah, I was waiting for the heckles to come in there, but yeah, Ben just laughed at me as if to hate. Oh, but sorry, Ben. That would be a good headline if you went for a headline. At my fees in the post. So St Mirren St Johnstone on Saturday tomorrow. Reagan, what do you think of this game?
I think it's an interesting game because St Johnstone have won the last 2 matches. If St Johnstone were going into it and they were kind of not playing well and stuff like that, you'd be thinking. But I think because St Johnstone have got those 2 wins, and also as Graham and Ben and yourself know, Michael, Ross County, as we spoke about earlier, they're playing at Ibrox. So if St Johnstone can get a wee win here, then it could possibly make Alistair, who's a regular contributor, it can make him very happy, because I fully expect Ross County to get beat on Sunday against Rangers. So if St Johnstone could possibly get a win in the battle of the Saints, as you were saying there, I think that this could be a very good weekend for St Johnstone.
See, that's why they don't play on a Monday night, because it would just sound the same on a Monday night. So the game. Simo Valakari was talking today. He says it was a great win last week, but we need to win this game tomorrow. St Mirren is a very good team, so it will be a challenge for us, but we need to be switched on. As I say, Graham, we always say on the show, you know, it's okay winning cup games and league games. Sorry, Ben, but you've got to now back it up now and go again, and that's what they should be doing tomorrow. But it's going to be interesting because St Johnstone is away from home, so I don't know how they're going to act on that kind of tight park.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to fancy St Mirren. You know, I know that Ben said earlier that everyone's beaten Aberdeen this now. It is right, but for St Mirren to go to Pittodrie and score 3 goals, I think was really impressive. And I think Olasanya is a massive, massive threat. And I just think they might have a bit too much for St Johnstone. There is no doubt these last 2 games, St Johnstone have been far, far better. And I like Valakari. I think he comes across very well. I think he wants to try and play attack and attractive football, unlike the Craig Levine side, of course. I'll not get into that. But he's not got the players to do it. That's the problem. He does have pace in there with like Kim Pioka and Sidibe. And I'm a massive fan of Mackenzie Carr because I'm a former Hearts player as well. But I just think St Mirren at home will probably be a bit too strong. And I've already said weeks ago, I think St Johnstone will go down. I know we gave predictions to start the season. I think most of we all said St Johnstone will go down. But I think they've left themselves too much to do. I don't think they've got enough quality. I know they have strengthened in this window, and they may have to strengthen more. But I think St Mirren at home are a really good side, which worries me for that cup game in a couple of weeks. But I honestly think St Mirren will win this. I just don't think St Johnstone away from home are quite good enough.
Ben, I don't know if you've had a chance to speak to Simo at any press conferences yet. I've watched him since he's come in, and you can tell he's a very passionate guy.
Yeah, well, it's I've been at the last 2 Motherwell St Johnstone games the last 2 weekends, so got to hear a wee bit more from him. And they've lost Jack Sanders today to MK Dons. Kind of did the full, I've got a sore calf, and then last Saturday I've got an illness type thing, and then next week he's away. So that's obviously a blow, but it was interesting the last 2 weeks to see Dre Wright playing right centre half. And, you know, let's get totally weird and let's put Sven Sprangler in at middle centre half as well, and let's just play full, you know, as you say, rightly, he's trying to play a brand of football that he simply hasn't got the players for at the minute, and it's commendable, like trying to basically stick to your principles like that. But there was points, even though they were improved in the 2 games against Motherwell, there were still points in it where I was watching, like I could still see why they were down where they were in the league, because there were still stray passes going amiss in the final third that could have resulted in goals for Motherwell. There were still, you know, mishit passes in midfield, bit of indecision in attack. So they're still not the finished article, but certainly the way they won the game last week was massive. They looked disjointed and all out of sorts in the first half, and then started growing into the game, started dominating the game a bit more, and then they scored the 2 goals inside a minute to pull themselves into a win. So a big result for them. If they can get a result, I don't even think a win. I think even if they could get a point here, they go into a cup game against Hamilton Accies, I think, after that, and then all of a sudden you've won 3 of your last 4, albeit 2 of them in the cup, but you've won 3 of your last 4, and then you start to build a wee bit of momentum, and then because they look dead and buried at the start of January. And if you can get through this and maybe still be within a couple of games heading into the final stretch of the season, it's not great, but I think a lot of St Johnstone fans will have taken that. And weirdly, there's a real, I wouldn't say positive mood about the club, but there's an acknowledgement, maybe, and a resignation that they might get relegated, and the likelihood is they will get relegated this season. And I think with that comes a level of freedom of, you know, they can be a bit more expressive in this season. If they manage to stay up, then brilliant. But, you know, there's a wee bit more of a, right, let's see what we've got for next season, and let's try and build this team in the best way that once we do go down to the Championship, that, you know, we've got a squad there and we've got a manager with a distinct playing style that can have us coming straight back up. Because you would imagine if Falkirk go up this season from the Championship, that division certainly opens up a wee bit more in terms of the budgets side of things, and I think it would probably become a bit more even rather than a disparity between maybe a top and the second and third teams and so on.
The concern I would have for St Johnstone, I've said this to Alison before as well, St Johnstone don't have a massive home crowd. If they go down, which they very well possibly will, that crowd's going to dwindle even more. And that's always been a concern for me.
So we're just going to let Ben out of the straight jacket. So that was a fine debut, Ben. So sorry that you had to come on at a hard time to speak about Stuart Kettlewell and Motherwell, but listen, let's hope Kettlewell is back in the game soon. He's a decent young manager, and any team would be lucky to have him as well. And he's very passionate as well, because I watch his press conferences every week for the show. So yeah, so Ben, once again, thanks for coming on, right? And we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much, guys. Really enjoyed it. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
There we go. That was Ben Banks there from the Glasgow World, joining us to speak about the football. Right, before we jump back into the championship, it's been a busy show tonight, actually. Let's speak rugby. Rugby starts tomorrow, the 6th March. Oh, no, it doesn't. Starts tonight, actually, 8 o'clock. And I spoke to freelance journalist, Peter Newman, is a rugby correspondent. So I spoke to him the other day about the Six Nations, but also Scotland's chances. So here we go. Okay, so I'm now joined on the locker room by freelance journalist Peter Newman to look ahead to this year's hopefully a successful Six Nations for Scotland. But then again, how many times have we said that in the past? So Peter, welcome to the show. I was going to ask you, how has the preparations been going in the Scotland camp for this year's Six Nations?
Well, what an excellent question. And I mean, I think I join everybody that will be watching this in absolutely wishing Scotland all the best. I think this was probably their best chance to win it. I think a lot of rugby fans have been saying for a while, Gregor Townsend has done an amazing job. He's really got an excellent kind of tune out of his players. Finn Russell is arguably the best fly half in the world at the moment. And I think everyone was really excited. However, immediately, as is so often the case for Scotland over the last few years, they've had a critical injury and lost their skipper, which is Siomi Tulapau. And he was being very much talked up as basically the best inside centre in the world, and was taking a lot of pressure off Finn Russell because he was taking responsibility. And he's just an absolutely outstanding player. Every time he gets the ball, Scotland gets go forward. He can kick, he can run over people, he can, he's the complete package. And unfortunately, he's torn his pectoral and is out for basically the entire tournament, which is just so typical of the luck that Townsend's had. And I think if I would offer any criticism at all, it's that maybe this is something that they should have looked at over the last few years, because they constantly get injuries. Although, he was injured in a club game, so what can you do? So hopeful. I think we are still very hopeful that they can be, as good as we were hoping. I would say France is probably the big challenge, but not quite as hopeful as it was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of luck, we've got no luck in terms of that, because it's the same with football as well. I mean, you just have to look at the Euros last year, where everybody get built up for a great fall as well, and we never turned up to any of the games as well. I mean, a lot of people didn't expect Scotland to get anything out of the Germany game, but the next two games, it was just a complete, maybe embarrassment would be too strong a word to use. But going back to the rugby, then so why do you think Scotland starts well and then falls by the wayside? I'm talking about the past about 2 or 3 Six Nations. We started well, beating England. That always helps as well. But just following the last card though, because if I'm remembering rightly, Peter, last year Scotland had 2 games to win the Six Nations, but they came up against Ireland and they got they got a heavy defeat.
I mean, it's tempting to say it's the classic thing of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, and I feel like in some ways beating England so consistently, which is always fantastic. In some ways, it hasn't done Scotland any favours, because what it means is that emotional energy that you get from the crowd and that kind of build up where everyone is then on top of it. Whereas Scotland, it usually perform much better when they're the underdogs and when everyone can get behind them. And you know, it's the hope that will kill you. And I would say the 25 years I've lived in Scotland, there's never been a better team, just in terms of the cohesion and how long they've been together. I think you're quite right to point out Ireland. Ireland are just always, over the last few years, frankly, they haven't played the world's most attractive rugby. It's not actually that much fun to watch. I've never seen a side, including really great All Black teams, that have ever passed quite as close to the gain line and the defence line as Ireland do. And they are absolutely a unit, and they will pass precision passes right on the gain line. And it just makes them very, very difficult to beat. The execution of those skills is incredible. And it has survived a rolling change of personnel over the years. So it is, I think Scotland would do well to consciously dampen down the optimism, because they'll be much better if they're running as underdogs. In that sense, playing Italy in the first round could actually be quite helpful if they get a scare at Murrayfield and the press get on their back. Because, of course, that's the other thing, is that most of the Unionist press doesn't take a lot of time to really start jumping on them. And so in some ways, if they get a scare and they can only just get over the line against a fired up Italy, it will suitably dampen that down, which would be really good for them.
There we go. Reagan. That was Peter Newman, freelance journalist, talking to me on Wednesday about the Six Nations. So how do you think Scotland will get on this weekend? The first game is against Italy.
Well, I think, like Peter said, hopefully that can build us up well, because usually Italy are the kind of whipping boys of the Six Nations, but they're actually doing okay the last couple of years. I think they beat Scotland the last game at Rome, was it? So I think that this will be the perfect match for Scotland to get off to a good start. Then they've got a really tricky match at home to Ireland. Then we go down to England. So I think it'll be an interesting Six Nations. But this time, Graham, we've got 3 games at home, which might suit us.
Yeah, I would hope so. But I think, as Peter said there, the fact that Finn Russell's out is a massive blow, because he's Scotland's best player by an absolute mile. Him being missing is a huge blow, but hopefully having these games at home will help, and we'll hopefully get off to a decent start this weekend.
Yep. So Scotland against Italy tomorrow, and we'll keep you right up to date with the games as well in the coming weeks as well, and hopefully we'll win the Six Nations. I don't know when, but there's always hope. Right, jumping into back to the ring ball game, back to the championship, and I don't know what's happened to Alan Riska. I hope he's got to the right platform for the right crane. But anyway, we'll speak about the Falkirk Livingston game, Airdrie, Queen's Park, Glenferrin, Red Rose, Hammond Ayr United, and Packet Thistle is at home to Morton. Before we talk about the Falkirk Livingston game, Graham and Reagan, what's your pick of the games tomorrow or this weekend even?
I think for me, Michael, I think probably the five derby between, I think it's Dunfermline and Raith Rovers. I think that'll be the one that I'll kind of look at. And then you've got Partick Thistle playing Morton. Partick Thistle just be hoping to get back on winning ways. But I think the match on the TV tonight, Graham, that'll be the one that'll stand out. Falkirk against Livingston.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a massive, massive game. Both teams in decent form. I still believe Falkirk win the league, and I would have said that if Alan was here as well. but I do believe that
Andy
Falkirk
Gibb.
will win. I do believe that
comes
Falkirk will end up winning the league. But Livingston are a decent side this season. You know, they'll definitely fancy their chances in it. If they can get 3 points, that would be huge. But I just have this sneaky feeling for Falkirk, and I think as well, Reagan's right. The Fife Derby tomorrow is massive. That's a huge game. Dunfermline got hammered 3-0 last week. They'll be looking to make up for that. So yeah, that's a massive game tomorrow.
And good in case you think who's come on, it's a very dark screen. No, it's not. It's Alan Risk. You see him, you don't. You see him, you don't. Remember that game you used to play in school? Yeah. So that was the championship games. We're just talking about the game tonight, Alan. I know you're not there. You might be a bit disappointed, but how do you think it will go?
So given the last couple of games, there's only been a goal in it. Obviously, they scored a wonder goal in Livingston, and then in the first game of the season, both teams are just sizing each other up. It was a physical battle, and that's one we tried to play football through Livingston, and Livingston set up the Martindale way. It was the same in the second game. It is a bit different tonight in that I've just seen the lineup, and it looks like we're also potentially going to line up with the back five.
Can you give us a team if that's possible, Alan?
I would love to, but I think if I go off this screen, it cuts me out.
Right, okay.
Okay. But I think along the back line, I think it was Miller at left back. The centre backs were going to be Lang, Donaldson, and Henderson. So Lang's just come back from long-term injury. He got man of the match and was in the SPFL Team of the Week last week on his first game back. He fights for every ball, wins every ball in the air. A really, really good guy to have back. And then right back's been Adams. So I think that's the first set I saw. I think McKeever was starting and Tate as well, and Hogarth in goals. I can't quite remember who the rest of the team was. I mean, I'd imagine it would be along the lines of Ethan Ross and Spencer, obviously, alongside Tate.
I've got the team here.
There you go, Alan. Reagan's could the
Go for it.
It's a Hogarth in goal. Lang, Donaldson, Spencer, McIver, Stewart, Adams, Tate, Ross, and Miller.
Stewart as well.
Yeah, Stewart's playing. Yep.
So this will be Barney Stewart. We just signed Barney Stewart. We actually signed him in about October from Heriot Watt Uni. So he's come through their sort of performance school graduate system. Absolutely brilliant move for him and for the university in terms of their development of football players. He's not started the game yet. This will be his first start for the club. So you look at a young guy like him, he's going to have an opportunity. I think in terms of him and McKeever, Barney's got pace and he's a brilliant finisher. McKeever's brilliant in the air and can find a man. So I'd reckon you'll probably see Barney running off McKeever. I wouldn't be surprised to see us play a bit more Route 1 football this evening. Not Route 1 and proper Route 1, like you'll see an attack in Falkirk side, but you'll probably find a very direct Falkirk side.
Alan, see Stuart, where did you get him from then?
It was Heriot Watt University, direct for uni.
Oh, okay. What type of player is he? Have you seen any clips or anything?
I've seen him live. So he's a striker. He was scoring a barrel load for Heriot Watt in the sort of I can't remember what tier they play in, but he was scoring a barrel load for Heriot Watt down there, and I think they've made appearances in various junior cups and whatnot. He came on and he probably should have had a goal against Queen's Park. And he's also scored already against Stennismuir, and I think a couple against Dumbarton in the cup, the Stennismuir Cup. So kind of like the reserve cup for us, but like a quite an important regional cup that's coming back. The Stirlingshire Cup, sorry. So he's already gotten goals. He's quick. He's got an eye for goal. He's powerful. He looks strong. We're still uncertain about what kind of player he's going to be for us. We don't know quite as well just now. But what we do know is that he looks like he's a talent, and he's already got goals in the reserve team. So we're hoping.
I know it's still early, Alan, but you feel like if you win tonight, that's you got kind of one hand on the trophy, because I think David Martin's side are the kind of second best team at the moment.
Nah, not at all, not in the slightest. I think we've got 3 home games coming up. We've got Livingston tonight, we've got Partick, and we've got Ayr. If we can come through those 3 games, if we can come through with 9 points, Christ, that's unbelievable. If we come through with 7 points, even, we're not. The league's too close. But I think what John McGlynn's clearly said in the last few weeks is that we just need to keep them at arm's length, keep putting the pressure on these teams around us.
Alan, can I just ask you about Callum Morrison? Because we was handed in a transfer request. How vital would, obviously, how big a blow would it be to lose him?
I think in terms of the times we've been in the last few years, this is the least bothered we'll be if he goes right now. I think if you'd asked us last season, he was pivotal for us in getting an Invincible campaign. He has obviously been on good form recently. I think McGlynn said he gets training with the squad, so if he doesn't leave in January, there's every chance that he'll be brought casually back into the start or to the first team at least. If we do lose him, I mean, we've got Ethan Ross, we've got Agyeman, we've got Miller. I'm not as worried as I might have been. But it's a gutting blow. I mean, he's a vital player for Falkirk. He's an Invincible. He's a club legend regardless of what happens. But it's one of those, if he doesn't want to play his football here, he doesn't want to play his football here. So don't keep a bad egg and let it rot. Someone's described him as a banana. If you have one banana and let that go through the rest of the bunch, it'll infect it. So you need to get rid of that one as quick as you can.
Banana? Yeah, okay. I've heard it all now on the show, a banana as well. Sadly, that's all we've got time for tonight. It's been a busy show. Thanks to Alan for joining us. And I hope you'll go. Are you going back to work or?
No, thankfully, I'm in Glasgow for a spell, so I'll catch some of the games. So yeah, I'll miss this one, but I'll catch the next one. Big 3 games coming up.
So yeah, thanks to Alan for joining us tonight. Thanks to Reagan, thanks to Graham, thanks to Des Roates and Ben Banks as always. It's been a busy show, Reagan, and thanks for all your comments as well. And yeah, so we'll see you soon here on the locker room.
The Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live